Low thunder. A single candle flickers in a room full of dust and whispers. Narrator, deep, steady, chilling. They said the plantation at Black Hollow never truly died, that its master's voice still calls from the fields, where the soil drinks more than rain. In 1852, one man lived alone in the decaying heart of Alabama, until he purchased 7 women no one else would touch. By spring, only 6 remained, and one wore a wedding ring carved from bone. Thunder strikes. The screen fades to black. Alabama, 1852. The air was heavy with rot and silence as the carriage rolled through the pine-thick road toward Black Hollow. The plantation had once been a marvel. Acres of rich soil, white columns bright as moonlight. Now it was a mausoleum of its own history. Its master, Elias Harrow, had returned after 12 years away. No one knew where he'd gone. Some said to Europe, others whispered to the West Indies, where dark rites were whispered beneath moonless skies. He returned alone, older, pale, eyes sunken yet burning with purpose. The locals watched him from their porches, crossing themselves as his carriage passed. He spoke to no one, sent no letters, and never came to town except to buy supplies. Until one winter morning, when he rode into Montgomery and attended a private auction few knew existed, one not listed on any record of the Confederacy. There, beneath the clatter of chains and murmurs, he purchased 7 women. No one knew their names. They came from different places, different bloodlines, but each bore a brand shaped like an eye surrounded by thorns. When a wagon carrying them entered Black Hollow, the crows rose from the trees in a black storm, and none ever returned. Locals said the house itself seemed alive after Elias brought the women. At night, faint hymns drifted from its windows, not in English, nor any language known in the county. People heard whispers in the fields, the sound of nails scratching inside the walls. The overseer, Jonas Crow, quit within a week, claiming he'd seen faces pressed against the cellar door. Faces of the women, though all 7 were seen alive the next morning. Each dawn, the same ritual played out. Elias led the women down to the fields before sunrise, a single lantern swaying in his hand. They would kneel in a perfect line, heads bowed, until the church bell struck 6. Then they vanished into the corn rows, not to be seen again until dusk. Neighbors began finding offerings by their property lines, small bundles of hair, teeth, and feathers tied with twine. Dogs refused to go near them. One night, a preacher from town visited, drawn by rumors of blasphemy. He was never seen again. Days later, his horse returned alone, its eyes pecked hollow. Section 3. The Whisper in the Well. There was a well behind the main house, old, deeper than any in the county. Elias forbade anyone from drawing water there. But one of the women, Sabine, was seen kneeling by it one morning, whispering down the shaft. A stable boy who witnessed it claimed the well whispered back. When Elias discovered her, he did not punish her. Instead, he took her hand, kissed her knuckles, and led her into the cellar. The others wept that night, their cries echoing through the house. The next morning, Sabine was gone. Her bed was stripped bare, but on the dining table, Elias placed a silver bowl filled with black water, covered with a veil. He told the servants, "She has returned to the hollow. The house has accepted her." The servants left before sunset and never came back. By spring, the nearby town of Eddystone was dying. Crops failed, animals miscarried, and children woke screaming of a pale man standing at their windows. Sheriff Alcott rode to Black Hollow with 3 deputies. Only one returned. He was found wandering the road barefoot, muttering a single phrase, "The bride is watching." Rumors spread faster than fever. Some said Elias had taken one of the women as his wife. Others whispered she wasn't a woman at all, that he'd married something that lived beneath the soil, and the ceremony had been sealed with 7 drops of blood. The church condemned him, but no priest dared visit. The air around Black Hollow grew heavier with each passing day. At night, lights flickered in the cornfields. Shapes moved between the rows, tall, slender, wrong, and always the sound of hymns. Section 5. The Wife in White. She first appeared in June. Locals saw her walking the road at dusk, a woman in a tattered white gown, her skin ghostly pale, her eyes veiled. She never looked up. They called her the Hollow Bride. Witnesses claimed the smell of decay followed her. Those who tried to speak to her vanished within a week. The last man to approach said her mouth did not move when she spoke, yet he heard her whisper clearly inside his mind, "He made me remember." When asked what she meant, he tore out his own eyes that night. By then, the town's population had halved. No one dared mention Elias Harrow's name. But at the edge of Black Hollow, the wind still carried the same distant song, a chorus of 7 voices bound together in a single unholy prayer. Continues seamlessly through sections 6 to 20, deepening the mystery into secret societies, church corruption, ritual horror, and the revelation that one of the women was never human, until the final unresolved ending where the viewer is left questioning whether the Hollow Bride still walks Alabama's woods. In late July of 1852, a merchant named Thomas Vane discovered a bundle of unsent letters at the Montgomery post office, all addressed to Elias Harrow, Black Hollow Plantation. The letters were from Dr. Gideon Ashcroft, a disgraced physician known for his research into the anatomy of the soul. Each page described the same experiment, to separate the vessel from the spirit without the death of either. One note, written in red ink, read, "You will require 7 vessels. Do not fear the corruption of flesh. The eye must remain open." Attached was a small sketch, the same thorned eye symbol burned into the women's skin. Vane delivered the letters to the county judge, but by the next morning, both men were found dead in the courthouse. Their faces were turned inside out, the ink from the letters smeared across their tongues. After that, the letters vanished. Some claimed Elias himself retrieved them. Others said the Hollow Bride came to town that night, leaving only footprints made of ash. The county sealed all records of the case, branding it a fevered tragedy. But the people knew better. The curse had spread. A new preacher arrived that autumn, Reverend Silas Crane, a man with a glass cross pendant and eyes that caught the light like blades. He spoke of redemption through pain, of purifying the land through fire. He gathered what few remained of his congregation and led them to the gates of Black Hollow. There they found the fields empty, the air still. Only the sound of wind through corn husks whispered around them. Crane commanded his followers to burn the estate. But when they lit the first torch, the fire turned blue, swirling upward like smoke underwater. The preacher dropped to his knees. The others ran. He was never seen again, but days later his glass cross was found melted into the shape of an eye, fused into the church's front door. Those who touched it claimed they heard breathing behind the wood. By early 1853, whispers reached Montgomery. Officials sent men to investigate, surveyors, soldiers, men of law. None returned. Their equipment surfaced months later, rusted and covered in a black resin that no scientist could identify. The state finally declared Black Hollow condemned land. But a select few from behind closed doors argued otherwise. Among them were plantation owners, judges, and church leaders. They formed a quiet circle known locally as the Consulate of Dawn. Their goal, to uncover what Elias Harrow had found beneath his soil. Meetings were held in candlelit rooms beneath Montgomery's old courthouse. Maps of Black Hollow lay spread across the table, marked with sigils, not survey lines. They spoke of ancient wells, of stones carved before the colonies, and of a voice that promised rebirth through obedience. No one recorded what decisions were made. But soon after, funding began to flow, and the first excavation team arrived at Black Hollow under government protection. They came with shovels and rifles. 24 men, led by an officer named Captain Harlan Beck. On the first day, they dug near the old well. On the second, they found bones, hundreds of them twisted, elongated wrong. Not human. That night, a storm tore through the valley. When it cleared, half the men were gone. Their tents stood, but their beds were filled with black water, rippling though no wind touched it. Beck wrote in his log, "The ground breathes beneath us. We hear her crying in the roots." On the 7th day, the remaining men fled. Beck stayed. His journal ended with one final entry. She is beneath me. She remembers my name. His body was never recovered. Section 10. The Forgotten Tape. 70 years later, in 1924, a farmer plowing near the ruins unearthed a phonograph cylinder sealed in wax. When played, it revealed a man's voice, trembling, distant. This is Elias Harrow. The body is a vessel. The bride has risen. The hollow opens. In the background, faint singing could be heard. 7 voices, harmonizing in tones no human throat could form. Experts dismissed it as a hoax. The cylinder vanished from the Montgomery Historical Archive in 1931. Some say it was purchased by a man from New Orleans who collected forbidden recordings. Others whisper it was reclaimed by the same voice still echoing beneath the hollow soil. After the war, the South was reborn in ruin and superstition. Amid that chaos rose a quiet sect known as the Church of the Open Eye. They wore no crosses. Their symbol, the eye encircled by thorns, appeared in burned chapels and graveyards across Alabama, Georgia, and Louisiana. The church claimed descent from Elias Harrow's teachings. They preached that souls could be cleansed through merging, that divinity lay not above but beneath. Their gatherings took place underground, in basements and abandoned barns, in the ruins of Black Hollow itself. Witnesses reported chanting, the smell of iron, and a low hum that made their vision blur. Those who joined the church were said to wake with new scars, small circular marks over their hearts. By 1902, most members had disappeared, but the sermon survived, written on thin leather pages that looked disturbingly organic. In 1911, a historian named Clara Wendell claimed to have discovered a journal belonging to one of the 7 women, the one who became Elias's wife. The entries began in terror, describing chains, prayers, and a marriage of the mind. But as the pages turned, her words shifted, no longer human, more like prophecy. He showed me the hollow beneath all things. He said I could become the mouth of the world. Her last entry was a single line, written over and over. I'm the well. Drink of me. Wendell was found dead 2 weeks later. Her skin had turned completely black, but not from decay, from ink seeping from her pores. The journal was never recovered. By 1934, the Federal Bureau of Ethnology reopened the Black Hollow site under the guise of anthropology. They found artifacts buried 30 feet deep, carved stone tablets depicting figures with elongated eyes and rings of women kneeling before them. One researcher, Dr. Samuel Wex, wrote, "We are not unearthing history. We are disturbing memory." His partner, Dr. Melton, disappeared during the dig. Wex claimed he saw her body fold into the earth like paper into water. The project shut down within days. The government sealed all findings under Cultural Preservation Act 47B. Locals said they could still hear the ground sighing at night. Rumors emerged that descendants of Elias Harrow still lived in secret. One woman, interviewed in 1946, claimed to be his great-granddaughter. She lived in a small house near Mobile. When asked about her ancestry, she smiled faintly and said, "He wasn't my great-grandfather. He was my beginning." The interviewer described her eyes as 2 different colors, one green, one the color of wet soil. She disappeared 3 days later. Her house burned to the ground, but the fire department reported something impossible. The flames burned downward into the ground, leaving a perfect circle of ash. In 1950, an amateur filmmaker named Charles Marin tried to make a documentary about Black Hollow. He arrived with a crew of 4. Only his camera was ever found. The film begins with ordinary interviews, farmers, preachers, wanderers. Then, in the final reel, the image distorts. The crew is standing in the ruins of the plantation house. Something is moving behind them, tall, veiled in white. The audio records a whisper, "He made me remember." The camera drops. The last frame shows an open eye carved into the soil, blinking once before the reel ends. The footage was seized by authorities. Marin's name was erased from census records. It is said that beneath Black Hollow lies a second house, a mirror estate built of bone and shadow. The few who claimed to have dreamt of it described rooms that bled light, staircases that led to the same room again and again, and a woman sitting at a dining table surrounded by empty chairs. Each chair bore a name, the same names of the 7 women Elias purchased in 1852. The woman whispered to them in a language without sound. Then, slowly, one by one, they rose and walked into the walls, leaving only the sound of dripping water. Witnesses began reporting strange phenomena near the ruins. Wells filling with blood, crops growing overnight, only to rot by morning. Voices calling from beneath the earth, begging for release. Some claimed the Hollow Bride had returned, walking the roads again, her veil fluttering though no wind blew. One farmer described her face as half human, half carved from wood. He said she reached toward him and whispered, "He waits beneath the 7th root." When his body was found, his hands were fused to the ground, as though the soil itself refused to let him go. In 1939, a final piece surfaced, the testament of Dr. Gideon Ashcroft, hidden in a private collection. It revealed that Elias Harrow had not gone mad. He had followed Ashcroft's theories to completion. Through union of the unwilling, Ashcroft wrote, "The veil may be torn. 7 vessels, 1 conductor, a bride, eternal." He believed that beneath Alabama's soil lay an ancient consciousness, not divine, not demonic, but awake. Elias had merely opened the door. The testament ends with one final command: do not bury the dead. The Hollow remembers. In the late 1940s, a series of disappearances plagued the counties surrounding the ruins. 7 women, all from different towns, all vanished within months. Sheriffs found their shoes placed in neat lines near dry wells. The ground beneath them pulsed when stepped on. Locals whispered that the Hollow Bride was rebuilding her choir, that the 7 had been chosen again. Travelers reported hearing music at night, distant, layered, impossibly deep. Those who followed it never returned. When rain fell, the water in the ditches turned black, and in it, reflections smiled back, faces not their own. Today, Black Hollow is nothing but ruin. The land is fenced, the record sealed, the story forgotten. But sometimes on quiet nights, travelers still hear singing through the trees. They say if you walk the old road and listen closely, you can hear a voice whisper just behind your ear. A woman's voice, soft, trembling, eternal. "He made me remember." And if you answer her, you will. The screen fades to black. The sound of wind becomes breathing. A faint heartbeat echoes beneath the closing credits.